a chance to get on here because usually it takes people a few minutes to get on anyway.
That sounds good.
It's all good. Yeah, hokey Twitter right now is just
it's a disaster. Yeah,
it's lost its mind. Hey, good news! Virginia Tech has held the Commonwealth Cup for 328 days. How many days until November 26th?
I was gonna say that streak's gonna end soon. 19.
Oh boy.
19, 21. Sorry.
So we're gonna hold it for 349 days. Woo!
Yes. Yeah. We're back to. I mean, that performance tonight. I mean, Duke could beat you.
Yeah.
I mean, they run the ball with Mateo Durant, and then you don't really have to have that good of a defense.
Nope. So this is a disaster. This
is hilarious. It's like every time we think they might be turning a corner, it's like not turning a corner, but like playing competent enough. It's rock bottom again.
It is. It really is. It's. This is a terrible analogy, but it's almost like an abusive relationship. And I know that that's a bad analogy, but like in all seriousness, it's you get beat. They tell you it's going to get better. You come back and you just get beat again. Like it's a horrible analogy, but really, I mean, so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. Let's do this because we're already getting comments in here and people are jumping in and Jordan is right. Like, hey, it's the hokey post-game show. I guess it's post-game. Maybe it's pre-game for next week with the new head coach. I have no idea. It's bad. It is an unmitigated disaster, Mike. This is okay. So here I had someone pose this question to me, and it's a two-part question because people that know me know that I'm from Michigan originally. I'm a huge Michigan fan. Mark gives me crap about that on a regular basis. It's fine. I can handle it. But I'm also a big Detroit Lions fan. So the question was posed to me, worst dumpster fire right now, the Detroit Lions or Virginia Tech? And I said, that's easy. It's Virginia Tech because no one expects the Detroit Lions to be any good.
Right.
But in year 6 of Virginia Tech, we expected Justin Fuente to have this thing going. You know, again, I go back to this, and people might get sick and tired of me saying this, but 6 years ago, we were sold a bill of goods that this is going to be a revolutionary offense. I mean, I can pull up the numbers, but I think 79 yards passing, Mike? Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, it's about right. And I'm pulling up the stats myself, but yeah, it was under 100 yards for sure. 3 yards passing in the first half. I think it was like 104 yards rushing, something like that. So, Tech was under 120 yards of total offense in the first half, which is absolutely pathetic.
Yep.
And I didn't really understand that. You'll remember, like in Justin Fuente's introductory press conference, Paul, he turned to Bud Foster and he said, "Hey, Bud." Turns to him, right? He says, "Your defense doesn't need to play perfect anymore."
Yeah.
Saying that the offense would be really, really good. It would be a revolutionary offense they were bringing to Blacksburg. Now, to Fuente's credit and to Brad Cornelson's credit, offense was really good first 2 years. Virginia Tech won 19 games, went to an ACC championship in year 1, set all sorts of school records in the first 2 years. Got Isaiah Ford in the first year in 2016, got Isaiah Ford to the top of the record books for several statistical categories for Virginia Tech at the wide receiver position, only to be broken in 2017 in year 2 by Cam Phillips, right?
Yeah.
So we had individual players setting a bunch of records. We had the team as a whole setting a bunch of records for the offense, but it's been a development issue. It's been a recruiting issue. I feel like we have, Paul, how often do we have these conversations? It's so funny. Everybody's chiming in here, but you and I have the same conversation at least twice a week, right?
Yep. Every Thursday, every Saturday, and then again Saturday night after the game. I mean, in this case, every Thursday, every Friday, and then Friday night again after the game. It feels like a broken record, honestly. I mean, it was refreshing today to do the pregame show from Hokie House and to be able to talk about a win and not have the whole thing be gloom and doom. Fast forward to 11 o'clock at night, and here we are. Welcome back to gloom and doom land. And Jordan is right? The Brad Cornelsen experiment is an unmitigated disaster.
Yes.
And I've said this before. This has been said to me by former players, and I've asked other former players if they feel the same way. Justin Fuente would rather be right than win football games. And you see that with the Brad Cornelsen experiment. Like, how many head coaches in the nation are going to look at their $3 to $4 million a year job and go, my buddy here, that's my offensive coordinator, is going to cost me my job, but I'm going to let him keep calling plays. Jet sweeps to the short side of the field seem to be working primo for us.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Not many. Right. Justin Fuente seems to be doing it. He's run 3 quarterbacks out of town. Josh Jackson, and again, you can make arguments as to whether or not Josh Jackson was a good quarterback, but Josh Jackson was an efficient quarterback. He didn't make
better than what they got now.
Way better than what they got now. Hendon Hooker is tearing it up in Tennessee, and Quincy Patterson is doing the same thing at North Dakota State. Now, North Dakota State, blah, 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 FCS, yada, yada, whatever. It doesn't matter. He's killing it there. He would be an upgrade over what they have right now. The Brad Cornelsen experiment is an unmitigated disaster. And for those of you that followed Justin Fuente's career when he was at Memphis, Brad Cornelsen was co-offensive coordinator. He was not the guy that called plays. He was the quarterback's coach and had the title so that at some point Foo's buddy could get a better job.
Right.
The guy that actually called the plays, I believe, is now at Texas A&M. Mike, is that right? A&M or
yes?
Yeah. He's the OC for Texas A&M. Yeah, he's Jimbo's AC.
Yep.
Or OC. So, Foo hooked his wagon to the wrong horse, and instead of unhooking it 2 years ago and potentially turning this thing around, he doubled down and just added a second horse, and it's now going off the edge of the cliff. I mean, it's good God. No, Mark.
No. So Knox Kadum was a former James Madison commit. So he was going to play quarterback at James Madison. Yep. Really good FCS school, about to make the jump up to the FBS. It was announced today that they're going to be joining Conference USA and making the jump up a level, which is pretty cool. Yep. But Kadum was not considered to be an FBS quarterback. He was a late addition to the recruiting class 2 years ago. Yep. When Virginia Tech lost some guys that they wanted at the position, Demetrius Davis, for example. So Knox Kadum was a late add to the recruiting class. So no, he's not the future at quarterback. The future at quarterback is Taj Bullock, who's actually behind Kadum. He's a true freshman. Kadum is a freshman in name only. He played last year, took essentially the COVID red shirt, we'll call it, right? So no, he's not the future at quarterback. It's either going to be Taj Bullock or, God willing, regardless of what happens with the coaching staff, if Alex Orji from Texas ends up coming, because he's a guy who's been flying a bit under the radar. He's a high 3-star quarterback, probably going to get a bump in the ratings because he's tearing it up his senior year down there in Texas. But a ton of arm talent. Ball goes like 65 yards in the air. He's an unbelievable talent. So that's the future at quarterback. Daryl Dickey is Jimbo's OC at A&M. Yep. Yes. All right. There you go. Yeah, there you go. Mark confirmed.
Mark. Having Mark listening. Just be careful. Don't let me besmirch Maryland, because Mark gets mad at me when I besmirch Maryland.
Yes.
I won't do that today. I won't
do that today. So yeah, you mentioned Paul, real quick. You mentioned the quarterback issue, right, in regards to the ability to develop the position, and we talked about Hooker transferring out and Josh Jackson transferred out. That was a little bit different though, because when Jackson got hurt in 2018, Willis came in, and going into 2019 season, Jackson thought he lost his job because Willis played great the back half of the 2018 season. So it was going to be a true quarterback competition, and so Jackson transferred out. So I don't put that on the coaching staff as much, but when you consider the quarterback issues the last couple of years, I mean, Hendon Hooker saved the 2019 season. You ran him out of town. Quincy Patterson, every time you put him in the game, even if it was for like a small a small set of plays, his own individual package. Like, you weren't going to allow him to throw the football, right? And he hasn't been the most prolific passer at North Dakota State, but he's putting up better numbers than Burmeister and whatever we just watched tonight with Kadum. Yeah. So, like you mentioned, Paul, it would have been better. You run him off. My whole thing is, like, we can talk about the recruiting rankings, right? Mm-hmm. We can talk about the last couple years, the 2020 class and the 2021 class, that weren't as good, right? I mean, the 2020 class, worse than the Power Five. It was like 74th, I think, or 75th nationally. And then the 2021 class, a bit better, in the middle of COVID, they were able to do a bit better than they did the year before, but not a great class either by Virginia Tech standards. But everybody wants to talk about that, and it's low-hanging fruit. It's like, oh, Fuente isn't recruiting well. Correct. He's not, but those issues haven't manifested themselves yet. When you look at this roster, and you look at the guys who are playing significant snaps for Virginia Tech, Paul, a lot of them are 4-stars.
Yeah.
A lot of them are 4-stars. What you're seeing right now in the issues on the field are not recruiting issues. They're player development issues.
Mm-hmm.
Burmeister's a 4-star. Trey Turner, who had a great game last week, didn't play tonight, has been the same receiver for 4 years. He's been a 500-yard receiver. He just went over the 2,000-yard mark, I think, 2 weeks ago. In the Syracuse game. He's been the same receiver for 4 years. Tavion Robinson, he's having a really good year, so I want to kind of lump him in here. He's a 4-star, right? The running back room, Keyshawn King, not even getting snaps right now, 4-star. Right. Jalen Holston, former 4-star. Like, there's a lot of talent on the offense. You look at the defensive side of the football, Jordan Williams. He was the only guy tonight who played, I thought, okay. We'll see how he grades out with Pro Football Focus. I thought he played okay. He was the only guy on the defensive line I looked at. I was like, he's not totally getting blown off the ball. 4-star.
Mm-hmm.
The defensive backrooms, Jermaine Waller, 4-star, right?
Yeah.
Tay Daly, played at Vanderbilt, 4-star. Like, there's Dax Hollifield, probably the biggest disappointment of the year at linebacker for Virginia Tech, 4-star. Like, Virginia Tech's got talent. That's not the problem. It's a player development issue with what we're seeing on the field right now. Where we're seeing the issues with recruiting crop up are depth, right? So you can't classify quarterback necessarily as a recruiting issue. That's player retention. Where you can point to recruiting is, okay, offensive line's been shuffling guys in and out, right? That's a little bit of player retention, but a lot of, okay, we haven't recruited quite as well. So now we got to push guys a little bit further along that may not be ready and may actually need a year or two more development, right? So Caden Moore is a good example of that. He's been by and large pretty good at right guard for Virginia Tech this year. Probably could have used another year of development before stepping into a starting role. So you got to rush those guys along a little bit more. So it's a multitude of things, but I think the biggest issue for Virginia Tech as it pertains to the 2021 football season, Paul, is player development, not necessarily recruiting. I think where you're going to see the recruiting issues is whoever takes over the program next, you're going to see a year or two where Virginia Tech, in my mind, won't be very good. And that's because the roster, in my opinion, will not be very good. You're going to see a lot of these 4-star guys who haven't been developed go out the door, these upperclassmen. They're either going to transfer or graduate. And then you're going to have all these young guys who haven't played a big role yet, who are part of these last couple classes that weren't very highly recruited. And you're going to see a talent deficiency, which is not what we're seeing right now at Virginia Tech. We're seeing a player development deficiency. So it's going to be a multifaceted issue now for whoever the next coach is coming in to take over. But as it pertains to this game tonight and punting, I want to just point out this one thing real quick, Paul. The punt down 14 with 5 minutes to go, because I've seen this. Mark asked this, and I've seen a couple of people ask me this on Twitter. Why did they do that? Justin Fuente, I was just on the press conference with him. Justin Fuente mentioned that they were punting with 5 minutes to go to play the field position game. That's fireable.
Yep.
This isn't early fourth quarter. This isn't middle third quarter. This isn't like a 4th and 1 at the 40 in the second quarter. This is, I get you're at the 25 or inside the 25 or wherever it was, but you're down 14. At least give the appearance that you're trying to win the game.
Right.
Give the appearance that you're not going. That punting the ball sends a message to your team that you are quitting on this football game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we saw the players quit in the fourth quarter. And this is the first time this season, in my opinion, that we've seen Virginia Tech quit. Virginia Tech has not played very well, but Virginia Tech's played hard this year, right?
Yep.
This is the first time that we've seen Virginia Tech quit. And you've asked me before, and Mark's asked me before, and I've had other people ask me, what would it take, in your opinion, for Justin Fuente and his staff to be fired before December 15th when the buyout drops from $10 million to $7.5 million? My message all along was that if they're going to make a move, if Whit Babcock's going to fire Justin Fuente, he's not going to do it before December 15th because of that $2.5 million that he would save. Unless the team quit and the coaching staff quit. And tonight was the first time we've seen that this year. I would consider making a move now, Mark. Or Paul, I'm sorry. I would consider making. I see Mark's Mark flashing his stat across the screen.
So here's the problem, and I brought this up, and this kind of came to me last weekend, and I agree with you. I think that if they're going to do it, now is the time. However, take a look at this coaching staff, right? And I've made this argument in the past. You don't have somebody on this staff that you can point to and say, this individual can take over the team, even if it is just for the next 4 games, and run the show with the big whistle, right? Because if you fire Fuente, you don't promote Brad Cornelsen. That's right. You're just getting more of the same train wreck. So you don't do that. I believe in my heart of hearts that Justin Hamilton will be a head coach, maybe not at the Power 5, but at the Group of 5 level in the next decade. But if you're Justin Hamilton, taking the whistle now and going 0-4, which potentially could happen, right? Taking the whistle now and going 0-4 sets you back really far, because people are going to look at that and they're going to say, Hamilton had a chance at Virginia Tech back in 2021. He went 0-4. I don't know that he's the guy for that job. So now what do you start doing? Now you start looking at guys like Vance Weiss. Nothing against Vance Weiss. I love me some Vance Weiss. I think he's probably one of the best coaches on the staff. He's just the offensive line coach, right? There's no one here that can take over this program. And that's what concerns me. You have a very young, talented, high energy defensive staff, but there's no Bud Foster there. And Bud's not coming back. I've had people say, bring Bud back for 4 games. Bud's not coming back for 4 games, man. Bud doesn't want that smoke. Bud's good right where he is. Bud's hanging out with the people. Bud's drinking beer at Calfee Park. Bud's living the dream, man. He's hanging out at the lake. He wants none of that. I'm telling you that right now. So my question to people when they say fire the coach is always, okay, who are you going to replace him with? And don't say anybody, because Mike and I are anybody, and you don't want me and Mike coaching your team, right? So you can't say anybody, because anybody's not the right answer. You have to give me a definitive answer. And there's no one on this coaching staff that you can say, yeah, that guy can take over even if it is for 4 games. And maybe that's Justin Fuente's own doing, right? Because he doesn't want to get fired. So I'll just surround myself with a bunch of yes men who aren't ready for the next step.
But I would argue at that point, if the players and coaches are quitting, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? So that's the other side of it.
Yeah.
What does it matter? Like, if the players are quitting anyway, it doesn't matter who's leading them on an interim basis, right? So that's the flip side of it. Now, there's also the side of it where, okay, Virginia Tech's got 3 games left, right? They got Duke, they got Miami, and they got UVA.
Right.
They got to win 2 of those to make a bowl game. I don't think Virginia Tech's making a bowl game at this point.
No.
So, especially if Braxton Burmeister is out for an extended period of time. That offense isn't beating Duke next Saturday.
Yeah.
Because what we saw tonight is we saw Boston College win the game by almost running the ball entirely. They had 234 yards on the ground. Duke's best trait is running the football with Mateo Durant. Well, if Virginia Tech can't stop the run and they can't move the ball at all on offense, which Boston College's defense, they have a pretty decent passing defense, but their rushing defense is not very good. And Virginia Tech ran for 162 yards tonight, which is fine. They scored 3 points. So the way I look at this is, if you're Virginia Tech and you're taking a look at this and you're saying, and you're with Babcock and you're like, all right, do I fire him now or not? Kind of evaluate where this thing's at. I mean, are you going to fire him before a bowl game?
Right.
Right. And I'm not even sure they're going to make a bowl game anyway. So are you going to fire him in the middle of bowl season before Christmas?
Yeah.
Like, what does this really look like? And I do think too that an important part of this, and I'm not advocating one way or not. I mean, ultimately, do I think it really makes all that big of a difference? No, because I think Whit Babcock can do what he needs to do in the background to line up whoever his list of candidates are, and he can do that background work without necessarily firing Justin Fuente before the 15th. Yeah. So for all these people out there saying, oh, well, Virginia Tech's going to miss out on hiring all these candidates, I don't buy it.
No.
I don't buy it, because a lot of the guys at Virginia Tech, a lot of the guys that I would consider Virginia Tech to be interested in, they're all going to be coaching past December 15th in bowl games. And they're not leaving their teams before bowl games anyway. So I don't think Virginia Tech is missing out on if it's going to be a Billy Napier. And I don't want Billy Napier. So I'll put that
freeze.
on. Don't want him. Don't want him. I don't know who I want. That's the problem too. I have no idea who I want. I would love Dave Clawson. I just don't think that Virginia Tech is realistically going to be able to poach him from Wake Forest. And that's the guy that I would be really interested in, especially if you keep some of the guys on the staff now who are good recruiters, like a Jack Tyler or a Ryan Smith. Like, if you're able to keep a couple of those guys on staff, a JC Price, coaching a defensive line. If you're able to keep some of those guys on the recruiting side and you're able to bring in Dave Clawson and his offensive staff from Wake Forest, they've been proven to do more with less. Wake Forest is not as talented of a football team as Virginia Tech, but they're much better coached, and they're in the position they're in for a reason. So that would be a guy I would absolutely go after. I just don't think that they'll be able to get him, and I'm seeing that seeing pop up. And it says VT is objectively a downgrade from Wake. No, it's not.
No, at all.
Not more money, better athletic department. It's absolutely not a downgrade. The team right now, currently, football team, yes, would be a downgrade. Program and program trajectory and all that, not even close. And Wake just got a big donation for the football program, which is a really big deal for Wake Forest, but they got a lot of catching up to do.
Wake Forest with Justin Fuente is Duke at this point. Dave Clawson, Wake Forest with Dave Clawson is competing for a coastal championship. There's a huge difference. Wake Forest fans need to realize that you have got arguably one of the best coaches and talent developers in the entire nation.
Yeah,
Dave Clawson is the real deal, man. I don't know. Look, here's the deal. Maybe Virginia Tech doesn't come along and poach Dave Clawson. That's fine. But you know what? There's LSUs, there's USCs out there. If Penn State's head coach goes to USC, there's Penn State out there. Dave Clawson isn't long for Wake Forest. I mean, that's just the reality of it. But Dave, in all honesty, Dave Clawson is a hell of a coach. And
he is.
For those of you that are Wake fans, be thankful that you've got him right now, because he's destined for bigger and better things. And that's not a dig on Wake Forest. I'm not saying anything bad about Wake Forest. What I'm saying is I always say this, right? There's a reason why you coach like an Ohio State, an Alabama, a Georgia, a Clemson. There's a reason why you coach at a Virginia Tech, a Wake Forest. There's a reason why you coach at a JMU or a North Dakota State, right? Dave Clawson is destined for an Ohio State, Clemson, Penn State, USC, like a blue blood type.
If he wants
job.
If he wants it, if he wants it. Now, here's the thing too, right? And I'm seeing people saying, yeah, Wake Forest, their successful season this year is a product of a weak ACC. I don't disagree, but to say that Dave Clawson, to just look at wins and losses, just like in a silo with Wake Forest and be like, oh, he's only won like 7 games X amount of times, 6 games X amount of times, 8 games X amount of times. Wake Forest is on a different scale. I don't think people need to understand how difficult it is to win football games at Wake Forest.
Yeah.
The reason why everybody was talking about the donation that Wake Forest got as a football program this week is because Wake Forest never has people donating like that to their football program. Millions and millions and millions of dollars. They just never have that happen. This is a program that always does more, has to do more with less. Has to do more with less. And he was and Mark's absolutely right. We knew Clawson was first rate before this year. Absolutely. Him being 8-0 this year didn't change my opinion of Dave Clawson. It just validated what I already thought. I knew Clawson was a good coach going into this year. I've been talking about Dave Clawson for a while, and to go 7-5, to go 8-4, to go even 6-6 at Wake Forest some years and go and win a bowl game, right? To get that 7th win. That is a huge deal at that school. And he's done that consistently. People want to venerate David Cutcliffe at Duke, right? David Cutcliffe this, David Cutcliffe that. All really well deserved for the run that he went on at Duke. Mm-hmm. Clawson's doing the same thing at Wake Forest.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, it's harder to win at Wake than it is at Duke.
Yep.
I mean, Duke, at least you got a good basketball program, so you got people interested in the athletic department. What does Wake got?
Right.
So I just think that it's a small alumni base too. I'm seeing that come up too. That's a really good point. Very small alumni base, which makes things even more challenging from a donation perspective.
Right. It's not, Mike, we're not disrespecting Wake Forest. It's just the opposite. No. Like, you're angry about nothing, man. Like, this is not us disrespecting Wake Forest. This is us showing respect to Dave Clawson. Like, we're being real with you here, man. Like, this isn't, you're all mad about us talking about Wake. We're not talking bad about Wake, dude.
No.
It's the opposite. Look, again, I said this before. I'll say this again. I got nothing but respect for what Dave Clawson is doing there. He is doing something with not a lot. Like, this is a big deal. Like, we're impressed by this.
Yeah.
We as Virginia Tech fans and media members want the same thing. Like, we're jealous of this.
Right.
Like, we were sold a bill of goods that is now turned into rotten eggs. And we're giving props to those that haven't.
Yeah. And it's a weak ACC, which makes it all the more inexplicable that Virginia Tech is now 4-5 on the season.
Yeah.
And it's going to be scratching and clawing to try to make a bowl game in a weak ACC.
I mean, at this point, I don't even know if they do. I honestly don't even know if they do, because they have 4 wins right now. They need to get to 6. You had Boston College, which we kind of looked at was a winnable game. You have Duke, which we look at as a winnable game. Miami is surging right now, man. Like, 6 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, Miami was a penciled in W. Not anymore. Miami is surging. They figured things out. And UVA can't stop anyone, but they can score 60 points like that, and Virginia Tech can't score. So you can get into a shootout with UVA.
That Virginia Tech offense, are they gonna keep up with UVA?
No.
Like the version we saw tonight? I mean,
no.
Even if Burmeister plays, I was questioning whether or not they would be able to score with UVA. UVA has one of the most explosive offenses in the ACC this year. So you're going to try to score with them? I mean, I get it. They can't stop. They can't stop anyone, but they can stop Virginia Tech.
Right.
So I don't think I had mixed feelings about it going into today, because I saw some steps, some strides, in the Syracuse game, and saw some strides in the Georgia Tech game on the offensive side. I thought the defensive side would hold up their end of the bargain enough, and I don't think the defense was great tonight by any stretch for Virginia Tech. I think holding Boston College to 17 points looks a bit better than it actually was.
Yeah.
A lot of chunk plays in the running game they gave up. I thought Tech's defensive front got bullied. Linebackers did not have their best game, but it was bend but don't break all night, right? Thought Boston College got in their way a little bit and kind of overthought things and wanted to put the ball in the air a little bit more than they needed to, right? I know Dracovic only threw it 13 times, but a few times I was like, man, you're in short yardage, and Tech hasn't shown the ability to stop you. Why are you throwing here on 3rd and 3? So I think BC with their play calling got in the way a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like Brad Cornelson was calling plays for both teams. Honestly, it was bad. I don't know. I'm honestly at a loss at this point. We did the pregame show today from Hokie House. I felt a little bit better coming off the Georgia Tech game. Now I feel like I'm right back where I was 2 weeks ago after Syracuse, right? Like, it's not a heartbreaking loss like Syracuse and Notre Dame were, but it is a demoralizing loss, because on paper, this team is better. It's better than Boston College, even with Phil Dracovic. It's better than 3 points, but yet it's not when you play the game. And that's the frustrating part, right? Like, that's the disheartening part, is 25 minutes ago, you rattled off a list of 4-star kids that are playing for Virginia Tech that are not playing up to their potential. Again, on paper, they look good, man.
Yeah.
But when you put them out on the field,
This was its own class of loss this year, right? So we have the West Virginia Notre Dame Syracuse bucket where you played poor situational football for like 5 plays in those 3 games combined, right? So
right. And you lost.
And you
lost every
like
one.
a close loss, right? You have the Pitt game where you were definitively beaten soundly by a better football team, right? And then you have this Boston College game. This is the first one of its type this year. This is the one where a lot of people expected you to win this game.
Yep.
And you laid an egg and looked like the totally unprepared team. Now, we didn't think that Phil Dracovic was going to play. Doesn't matter. Phil Dracovic and his ability to run the football in this game was kind of secondary. Like, throwing the football, he throws that pick and Tech fumbles it right back. And Boston College goes in and scores. Dracovic has a short touchdown run on the read option. And he had a couple of runs, but Grossell would have had a couple of runs, you know? Like there would have been a few plays where you see the quarterback take off on the read option. And I don't think Phil Dracovic being back tonight is the reason why BC won the football game. I think BC won the football game because Virginia Tech decided that at the line of scrimmage, they were going to get bullied on both sides of the football, especially on defense.
Phil Dracovic was 7 of 13 for 112 yards and an interception. He was absolutely not the reason why Virginia Tech.
Not the reason. He was bad. He was bad for a lot of the first half. Bad. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm at a loss, Paul. I don't know.
It's frustrating. I don't know. It's almost one of those things now where I was kind of hoping that the Hokies would run the table and then maybe TCU would come calling and Justin Fuente would just go on his own volition and then we could get out of the whole buyout thing. But that's not looking like it's going to happen now. So at this point, it's kind of, I guess, start writing those 5 checks so you can hand them out to them over the course of the next 5 years and let's just move on. I mean, it's this right here. I mean, I can't disagree with James on this one. Like, I mean,
oh yeah, I mean, I've seen some, even like the mediocre Beamer teams in the last few years. They had more fight than this, more. And I don't mean from like a playing hard standpoint. I just mean from like you're watching them and they're more aesthetically pleasing, even though they're infuriating at the same time. This is like. This is just bad football being played.
Yeah, it is. It is. So where are we at? Where are we at as members of the media, as talk show hosts, as fans?
I really hope. On one hand, I'm like, yeah, I mean, just cut the cord and move on. On the other hand, like, I want to enjoy my weekend. So, like, if they do that this weekend, then everything goes to crap. Then I'm busy. I don't want to be. I want to enjoy myself this weekend, Paul. I want to hang out with the dog and stuff.
Is Tucker in the garage with you?
He's not. He's not. Kate's,
that's why you're able to concentrate.
Unlike earlier, Kate's home now, so she's upstairs. Okay. Tucker's with her. When you got to understand, Paul, when my wife's home, the dog is only friends with me when she's gone. Right.
Okay.
Like, when she's home, he follows her everywhere.
Oh.
Yeah.
My dogs are different. My dogs couldn't care less if my wife is here when I'm home, but that's you need to feed them more often. That's the key.
I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I don't see Justin Fuente getting fired this weekend. I think it ends up being a Monday thing if it's going to happen. I think, there again, I still feel like there's so many questions around who is gonna run this thing if he's not there. Like, and that is a giant concern of mine, because once again, none of these coaches, none of them have any head coaching experience.
Right.
And so to toss someone, whether it be Justin Hamilton, whether it be Brad Cornelson, whether it be Vance Weiss, I don't know, to the Wolves and just say, here you go. I feel like that's a worse scenario than what we're currently in.
Right.
You say, can it get worse? Yeah, I think it can. Because at least with Fuente at the helm, Hokie Nation has one person to direct their anger at, and it can be a coordinated effort at that one person. Whereas if you switch this thing up, it exactly, it can always be worse. And I'm scared of what worse looks like, because now you start dropping recruits.
Yeah.
Now you start losing donors. Now you start losing fans. Now you start, you go into a Duke game and you lose revenue at a Duke game. That impacts the entire athletic department.
Right.
So can it get worse? Yeah. Does it get worse if you fire Fuente this weekend? Unfortunately, I think it does. And I think we just got to ride this thing out for the next 45 days or so. Get to December 15th.
Because as you take a step back from it, and again, I don't think this is going to happen. Right? I don't think Fuente is going to be fired tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I think it could happen. I don't think it's likely. Right. I think what happens is he gets fired after the 15th, and Tech saves $2.5 million.
Yeah.
I think Virginia Tech will be better off in the long term to save that $2.5 million for the next coach.
Yep.
And and that's why I keep coming back to, the only reason you fire him tomorrow is to appease the fan base, but at what cost, and what difference does it make at this point, right? Yeah. And if the team quits, yeah, and I mentioned that earlier, if the team quits, the coaching staff quits, yeah, but it would have to be, I think, for a full game,
right?
And I think we're getting too close to the end now. Yeah. I think they're going to fire him. What happened already?
Surfer Boy, you're right. But I was in Lane Stadium for the Syracuse game, and I watched people walking out in disgust, and I heard. So it's not one or two fringe kook fans screaming "Fire Justin Fuente."
They're out there too, though.
They are, and they've been out there for a while. But they usually come at Mike on Twitter, at Mike McDaniel SOS, if you want to read some fun stuff. It was the entire West stands. It was the classy side of Lane Stadium, right? The whole area under the press box was chanting "Fire Justin Fuente." The entire north end zone and north end of the east stands, which is the student section, were chanting "Fire Justin Fuente." It's become bigger than just the outlying fringe. It's now come into all of Hokie Nation. So, yes, I agree, Virginia Tech fans are dedicated. But if you keep rolling this guy out there, 1 turns into 2, 2 turns into 4, 4 turns into 8, and it's not long before you're talking about thousands. And that's my concern.
I think we're going to have – I don't know this. This is pure speculation. That's a type of game that sends guys to a transfer portal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So don't be surprised if some of the players try to get a head start.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's more likely. I think we see that before we see a head coach firing.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I already gave your Twitter handle, but where can everybody else find you?
Yeah, at Mike McDaniel SOS, sonsofsaturday.com. I'm on with Paul on Thursdays at 5:30 on ESPN Blacksburg, ESPNBlacksburg.com. If you're not in the New River Valley, that's the area by Blacksburg for those of you unfamiliar.
Yep.
Hokie Hangover Podcast, talk Virginia Tech football, Virginia Tech basketball. Basketball Conference, the ACC Football Podcast. Go check that out. And then the Sons of Saturday National College Football and College Basketball Podcast over there for Sons of Saturday. So go check all that stuff out.
John, watch out for the women's softball team this year. That might be Virginia Tech's chance to get that national championship. We're a softball school now, wrestling school, basketball school. What are we, Mike?
We're a school of angry fans.
You can hear us on Monday through Friday. It's The Drive on ESPN Blacksburg, 4 to 6. Mike mentioned ESPNBlacksburg.com. We have the ESPN Blacksburg app also. We cover pretty much everything Hokie related and around the nation. We do a lot of NFL stuff, a lot of ACC football stuff, so you definitely can check us out. It's not always doom and gloom. Monday might be, just fair warning. It might be a lot of the same what you're hearing here today. But we'd love to have any of you jump on, follow us. I'm on Twitter at Paul V. Wags. Again, at Mike McDaniel, SOS. Go ahead and follow us. What Mark said. Here we go. We like it. And also, there is a Virginia Tech page on the Voice of College Football. So if you want to go ahead and follow that. At some point, I think Mark is going to kick us off the main page. He's not going to let us do this here anymore. We're going to have to go to the Virginia Tech page. So follow the Virginia Tech page also, especially if you're a Hokie fan. Or, if you're like the people that want to just tell us how bad Virginia Tech is, you can follow. We don't care. Just follow it. Follow it for whatever reason. Final thoughts?
Enjoy your Saturday of college football, all you fans with high hopes and dreams.
I got a big Michigan game tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. Got to bounce back.
Yeah, Michigan will be fine.
Yeah, I guess. It depends what your definition of fine is.
They'll be fine. They'll be all right.
All right, man. Take care of yourself. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you Thursday if I don't talk to you before.
Yeah, you too, Paul.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. It's the Hokie Postgame Show on the Voice of College Football. We'll talk to you guys next week.